In a previous video, I showed you how to use the data analysis toolpack to create some statistics within Excel. The output during that video is currently shown on the screen. The data is on the left-hand side. We have some ages and test scores, and then the statistics are towards the right-hand side, where we can see the means, standard error, etc., etc. These are the output from the data analysis toolpack. Now, while this method is very sort of quick and easy, and sort of gets you very simply a large number of statistics, it's not really the advanced method. If you're going to be sort of an advanced user of Excel, you need to learn to use Excel Formulae. So actually, Excel, we can write formulae which can sort of recreate all of this data, all of these statistics in a much more useful manner. If you use formulae, the point is that they're much more flexible, much more adaptable. You can manipulate easily, whereas the analysis method that we used before just gives a very strict and sort of set layout of data. If you use formulae, we can manipulate our answers much more easily. So let's just take an example. As we can see here, from the data analysis toolpack, we had the mean of age was 45.1. Now we're going to see if we can recreate that using what sort of formula. So to type a formula, we have to start off, we choose the cell we want the formula to go in, and we start our formula by typing equals. And then what we have to do is we have to know the sort of set keywords. Now to work out the mean, what we have to type in is average. Now you see as you start to type, there are some different formulae names that would crop up. There's a bunch of them: av, dev, average, average A. If you click on each of them, it will tell you what they do. So the one we want here is average, and if you click on it, it says returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments. So let's type this average, and then we have the brackets, and then you see it tells you the syntax. It tells you now you have to write in the numbers separated by columns. So if I typed in average 1, 2, then it gives me the average of those two numbers, 1 and 2, average 1.5. That's not very useful. More useful is if I type in average and then a range of numbers. So the range can be defined by writing down the range. So if we want the average of the age goes from cell B2 down to cell B33. So I can type B2, you'll see B2 has turned blue to say that's the cell I've selected, and then colon B33, not 33, 21, and you'll see now it's selected that age range. And if I close my brackets and hit enter, I get 45.1. So we've shown how we can work out the average using a formula. If you don't like having to type in the cell values, you can just do exactly the same thing, average, and then rather than type in the range, you can select it, like click and drag. I'm going to click and drag, and it does exactly the same thing, average B2 to B21. Now the advantage of this formula method is, as well as being able to like sort of just recreate all the statistics within our data analysis method, and we can manipulate it much more easily. Suppose rather than the average of B2 to B21, I just wanted the average of the first 10 values. Well, the first 10 values are just B2 to B11. So I just changed the formula to say B2, B11. Now the average of the first 10 values is just 46.3. You'll notice when I do that, you get an error message that crops up saying the formula refers to a range with additional numbers adjacent to it. That's warning you that you've not selected the entirety of the age column. So what I'll do is I'll go back and return to the average of B2 to B21. I can also sort of drag and copy this formula. So if I select the bottom right hand corner, I can drag this formula to the right, and you'll see it's sort of not only has it dragged the formula to the right, it's copied the same formula but changed the column. So now it's saying the average of C2 to C21, which just happens to be the average of the test scores. 11.85, and that is indeed the same average of the test scores. So it's very easy to sort of like manipulate, to copy formulae across for different columns. As I said, it's a lot more flexible, not a lot more adaptable than just the data analysis. So let's try another one. So let's say we want to do the sum of column B. So if I do, so sum is an easy one, so sum, okay, and I'm going to select just sum age 902. Again, that's exactly the same as this number. So I'll just label what I've written here. So the first one was mean, and then sum here. And then again, if I copy this formula, I can drag and drop, or I can copy and paste Control C and Control V, just copy the formula across. And now we'll get the sum of C2 to C21, 237. There's a lot more you can learn. There's a lot of special syntax with these formulae. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth at the moment. Let's have a look for example. And also, as I said, like you can start typing equals and then start typing, and you'll see different formulae that can turn out. If you're not too sure what the formula is, you can also click on a cell, and you see at the top there's this FX button that says Insert Function. And now we can search for different functions. So suppose I wanted the standard deviation, and I didn't know what how to get the standard deviation function. I can type in a description up here, standard deviation, and I'll search for it, and it gives a lot of formulae which maybe include, which are like standard deviation. Again, you can click on each one. The one that I think we want is stdev. This function is available. It estimates standard deviation based on a sample. It's actually there's a few more. stdev-a is sort of a newer version. See, stdev is like the old version that was compatible with Excel 2007. stdev-a is a new version. Estimates standard deviation based on a sample, including logical values and text. So that says that if you got the value false, then it will evaluate that to be the number 0. If you have the word true, that will evaluate it to be the number 1. So let's just try this stdev-a. And we want the standard deviation of this range. Okay, and so 19.25699. That matches up with. Oh, just copied that across. So 19.25699 matches up exactly with the one output by the sample statistics. Okay, and that's a quick introduction to formulae. We've shown how to do the mean, the sum, the standard deviation. If I went to the range, I don't think there's a special formula for the range, so we have to do a maximum. Remember, the range is the maximum rather than minus the minimum. So if I do max of age minus min of age. So that sets me 59. So there we go, that's on my range. So I use the formula max B2 to B21, that's the age data, minus min B2 to B21, that's the age data. Again, and you can see a formula including two different sort of functions, the max function and the min function, means you can manipulate your data a lot more simply.